Hey y'all, hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Santika Grigley. If you are new here, I am a lifestyle and travel content creator and entrepreneur. I've been wanting to share my Hurricane Katrina story, my family's Hurricane Katrina story for a very long time. I feel like August rolls around and I'm like, this year is gonna be the year that I do it, and I kind of lose my nerve, or the time just kind of comes and goes. And I've been seeing a lot of discourse around Hurricane Katrina because the documentary that recently came out, and with it being 20 years, there has just been a lot of conversation about it. So I said, go ahead and do it. Like, now's your time. Like, don't let another year go by. Just a little background before I hop into it. I was born in New Orleans. My mom and dad moved our family to Texas when I was just a baby. I spent a lot of summers down there, a lot of Mardi Gras, Halloweens, birthdays, all that kind of stuff, just because my family always wanted me to know like where I came from and still like have a connection with our home. My mother was raised in the 9th Ward, so she spent part of her years in the lower 9th across the canal, and she spent the rest of her years in the Desire Projects. My dad's family spent some time in the city, but he was mostly raised and would call home Lacombe, Louisiana, which is just right across the Pontchartrain, St. Tammany Parish. When my mother got pregnant and had me, we were living in the St. Bernard Project. So, and then we moved to Texas. I'm nervous. Okay, let's get into it. When Hurricane Katrina hit, I was going into my junior year of high school. And this is like a really important part of the story. I remember the news was just constantly on in my home around this time. And, you know, the news anchors kept saying, this is expected to be bad. You know, they're encouraging people or urging people to leave. And similar to most hurricane seasons, and my family anyways, people would be like, okay, whatever, and they would stay. But as it got closer to the time that Hurricane Katrina was supposed to hit, some of my family were like, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and take heed and leave just to be on the safe side. So family members started arriving to our home. And mind you, high school was still happening for me. I was getting up every day going to school. My mom and dad were getting up every day and going to work. So it was just like, while this big thing was happening, we still had our responsibilities that we had to take care of. As it got closer, the news and everyone was just like, no, for real, like, this is gonna be, the category is categorying, y'all need to get up out of here. So more family started leaving. And I just remember it was a mess. Traffic on the highway, a mess. It was taking longer to get, we lived in Texas in the DFW Metroplex, so it was just like taking longer to get there and longer for family members to arrive. And I had family all throughout DFW. So Grand Prairie was where we lived at the time. I had family in Arlington, Mansfield, Cedar Hill, and Duncanville was like where the most of my family that had left New Orleans at some point in life ended up settling, so to speak. So you're getting the calls from family saying, you know, either so-and-so made it, or they're calling you themselves to say, like, we're here, we made it, we're good, and kind of just like telling us what was happening like on the ground when they were like leaving, how it was on the highway, all of that kind of stuff, just like their journey to like get to Texas. And some of my family that left ended up in Georgia. I'm not sure why, because I don't think that we had family in Atlanta, which is where a lot of them ended up going, or if it was just a thing where it was just like, we need to go to the, you know, closest place. But some of them ended up going to Georgia. Now, as people were arriving, like cousins and my grandma made it, we were excited, but there's other family members like, where are they? Why were they not in the car with you? What's going on? And two of those people, one being my mom's oldest sister and the other being my sister. At the time, my sister was living in New Orleans and she was going to school down there. So we're just like, where are they? Like, what's going on? And then Hurricane Katrina hits and we still don't know where they are. And then they break the levees. And we're like, holy shit. We still don't know where they are. We, of course, lose contact with family because, you know, electricity went out, cell phone towers went down. So you're just like not knowing what's going on, because some of my dad's family did end up staying and they live in St. Tammany Parish. So they stayed. So we're just like not knowing what's going on with anybody. And you're just like watching stuff unfold on the news and it's just not good at all. So you're just thinking the worst. Now, I don't know if like an announcement was made on the news or what, but my mom and dad ended up registering, I think they registered us at, I don't know if it was just like you go online and you put your information in once, if you had to call the different kind of shelters or makeshift facilities that were popping up, because they started busing people, and I'm going to speak specifically to New Orleans because that's where my family was. They started busing people out of New Orleans to safety, so to speak. So they were like either shelters or like makeshift shelters that they were busing people to. And I think my mom and dad had to register us. Like, I don't know if they went online and like they had to put their name in, their phone number in. So then as family was arriving at these facilities, I believe they were like getting on the computer and would type in like a loved one's name, or they were being asked their last name. I'm not sure, but we were getting phone calls that said so-and-so made it. You come and pick them up. Here is where they are. And some of these places, like they weren't down the road. Like it wasn't like 5, 10, 15, 20, 30-minute drives. Like some of them were kind of far. So now came the time where, you know, my parents were like taking off of work to go get family. And I was still going about my school business. We had a cousin that was staying with us and his mom and dad, and we were around the same age. And then another cousin of mine who was around my age. It was like they became part of my school year. I was very involved in high school and different organizations, so they just started coming with me to different social gatherings and events. Like that's just what it was, whether it be because I was in yearbook, I was a sports editor having to report on like games, or just coming to the mall to hang out with me and my friends on the weekend. That just became part of their life too. So my parents were going to pick people up. Other family was going to pick people up. Like we all were doing our due diligence, so to speak. And you keep getting these phone calls and you're like super excited that like this family member is safe, but we still hadn't heard anything from or about my aunt or my sister. And I don't know how many days went by. I like just don't remember, but it felt like an eternity. Finally, my aunt shows up, her and a really good friend of hers who was together. And they come and they tell us their story, and they make it, and we're just like, thank God. But we still hadn't heard anything about my sister. And no one was really talking about it. Like, you were talking about, like, people were telling their stories about what they went through to like make it to Texas, or like how bad it was, or wow, we can't believe this happened. But nobody was talking specifically about like my sister being missing. It was just like this unspoken, just like, dear God in the house. And I remember one day specifically, like, I could tell my mom had been crying. She never cried in front of us, like ever, my whole entire life. Even with this going on with my sister, but I could tell she had just been like bawling, crying. Like I could see it. And I remember we just like kind of looked at each other one day in the house. And I can't remember who was at the house, but I know my dad was there. I'm imagining family that had arrived must have been there. And we were all like sitting in like the dining room, which the kitchen was open to the dining room was open to the living room. And it was just like we gave each other that look and you just go on about your day. And I remember going in the bathroom and I just was like crying and like praying to God, just like, bring my sister. Like, I don't, just let her be alive. Just, dear Jesus, like, keep her safe. And I know it wasn't a day. I don't think it was 2 days. It felt like forever. And you're just holding out hope. And we like finally got a phone call. And my sister had been found. Or I'm saying found, but like she ended up being bused to one of these like shelters, makeshift facilities. And it was her and a friend of hers. And she had told us that she ended up in the Superdome. Now, I won't tell the intricate details that she has shared with me from that experience, because I feel like that is her story to share when she is ready to share. But it was nothing nice and it was nothing pretty. And if you've watched any of the documentaries or followed any of the news around it, you know what was happening in the Superdome. The conditions were deplorable. There was violence happening in there. It was basically just like survival of the fittest, dog eat dog type of experience. So she makes it. And I just remember the day because the friend who was with her, I don't know if it was his mom or dad or his aunt and uncle, came to our house to receive him. And I remember they brought like, I think it was like a thank you card. I just remember it was like a card, and then they brought like this like religious statue that had a Bible verse on it, as basically saying like, thank you for looking after our loved one and just making sure he got to somewhere safe where, you know, he knew someone, and kind of just, I don't know, like just holding him close as if he was our own. And it was just like such a relief, you know, but it was still just like crazy that this had happened, because people were led to believe that the levees broke on their own, and they did not. And this like changes the narrative of the story, because it's just like, y'all did this. Like, y'all did this. Y'all broke these levees. Like, Hurricane Katrina didn't do that. And you're seeing the aftermath. And it was wild because all my family was just thinking, oh, before the levees got broke, we good. Like, we're Gucci. We could, like, go back home. We're fine. And then that happens, and that completely just, like, changes the narrative. And you have to think about it. People are leaving in a state of emergency, and they're like, I'm gonna go back to my home. The school year was starting. My kids are gonna go back to school. Like, all these things that you're just like preparing yourself to be able to go back to be able to go back to home. And that just like wasn't the case. So then it's just like, well, what do we do? Like, what do all of us do? Like, what does this look like moving forward? What happens? And I don't know how much time went by. Maybe it was like September at this point. I don't know. But I think it was like FEMA had started maybe making like agreements with different apartments, places, or something. Forgive me if I'm like misspeaking. But all I know is that my family starts moving out of my family who was displaced by Hurricane Katrina. They start moving out of the family members' homes who lived in the DFW Metroplex, and they start moving into their own apartments. And a lot of my family ended up moving in the same apartment in Irving, Texas. But I think it was like specific apartments or property management companies like struck this deal or were agreeing to take FEMA vouchers or something. And they all ended up, it was like 20 plus family members living in this apartment complex. And this is where things kind of just like got wonky, because you just like realize you don't know how long this is going to be your new home. And my normal just like changed, because I don't remember if my dad, he wasn't an over-the-road truck driver, meaning he was like traveling to different states and was gone. But I definitely don't remember him being home every night. So I think he still was having loads while in Texas that required him to like travel kind of far. So he was at home. And then my mom worked in Dallas at the time. So she would either leave work early and go check on family, which I'll dive into a little bit in a moment. Or she would like stop in on them on the way home or go there on the weekend. Meanwhile, school is still happening for me. And like I said, I was like very involved, and it was just like, you know what it is you're supposed to be doing. And I've always been like an independent kid, but when I think back about this time, like I was alone a lot during this time. And, you know, my mom was doing what she had to do for our family. Like, you have to think that some of my family arrived by bus because they got stuck. Some of them rode down with people, so they didn't all have their vehicles. And then they're having to figure out clothes, and I think FEMA eventually like gave furniture, but it was like nothing good. Like, you can go online and look at it. It was like crap. So just like building this new life for themselves while still trying to figure out like how long it's going to take them to get back to their real life. Like, it's kind of like your life is on pause. So my mom would go to the apartment complex and just like bring people to like different offices they needed to go to like handle paperwork, help fill out paperwork, grocery store runs, just like doing all of that kind of stuff. And I was getting ready to be inducted into the National Honor Society, which I was like super excited about. But it was just like so much going on. I never even mentioned it to my parents. And at first I was like gonna go. I was like, oh, well, I'll go. Like, I'll just get myself together. And I don't remember this exactly, but I'm imagining. I remember like wanting to get my hair braided. Like, I wanted my hair to be like freshly braided. And it wasn't gonna be done in time. So I remember going to school the day of my like National Honor Society induction, and one of my teachers who like participated with that was like, you know, see you tonight. And a little backstory about that, like all my teachers knew that I was from New Orleans. So they were like checking in, you know, wanting to know how things were at home. Was I good? Do we need anything? Do I need anything? And this day I told her, I was like, I won't be coming to the ceremony tonight because, you know, I don't have anything to wear. I'm supposed to go get my hair braided after school, and I don't think it'll be done in time. And I won't have a ride home, you know, like a ride home from school or like from campus. And my teacher was just like, don't worry about that. And shout out to Sam Houston High School and my teachers, because baby, they did their like big one always. They were just like, don't worry about that. Girl, come. Like, you're coming. This is a really big deal. You need to come. We'll make sure you get home. And they always were like that. We'll make sure you get home. We'll make sure you have what you need, whether it was like a UIL competition and making sure we got to the school and got home, just everything. Like, they just were there. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Like, I don't, you know, no, I'm not going to go. And they were like, no, you need to come. So I remember going to that ceremony, which I know I never mentioned it to my parents. Like, I didn't. And my hair wasn't finished being braided. It was like half a head. Like, it's just the most crazy thing. Like, just like imagine half your hair being braided. It's a picture out there somewhere. Like, I would love to see it if someone has it. But like, half your hair being braided. If you got inducted into the National Honor Society with me, please go back through your photos if you have some. And I would love to see the photos from there, because they definitely took photos. Half your hair braided, half your hair unbraided. I remember I wore a Rocawear like green, like a deep hunter green outfit to school that day. And just standing up there, like, just the most ridiculousness, right? But like, that's just, I'm sharing that to say that's how the course of that year, that year of school ended up going for me. People really had to like step in and fill in to help that year. And a lot of it was my teachers, a lot of it was my best friend's mom. Like, they really just were there so my mom and dad could like focus their energy on other things. So my family gets settled in. They get settled into their apartment and, you know, start getting into their groove of this is what life is gonna look like. And my fall semester comes to an end. I don't know at what point my spring semester, so you go on Christmas break, we have Christmas, and then my spring semester starts, and my dad started throwing around the idea of going down to New Orleans. And it was because I think he was hearing from like his brother or his family and or seeing on the news, crews had started arriving or making a lot of money clearing like the debris, the trees, and that kind of stuff. And all you needed was like a truck and equipment to be able to do it. And you could go out here and do this and make this money, which would be like a real life changer for us. I mean, duh, like it's a no-brainer, like go down there and make money. So he sat down and he talked to my mom about it, which the hustle and spirit and just like doing those kind of things was nothing new to my household. So it wasn't like a conversation where it was just like a first time something like this had ever come up. Like my mom and dad were all about, if you have something on your spirit that you feel like you can make money doing or you want to go out there and do, what can we do? You know what I'm saying? Like they were always like, what are we going to do to like make that happen? That's just always has been their spirit. So when my dad went to my mom, it was like, it was already done. So my dad and his oldest brother agreed to do it. And my mom ends up pulling, and I don't know all the details of all of this, but my mom ends up pulling money out of her 401k. I don't know what other money was put up. I think my uncle was like, I'll put this up, y'all match this, we gonna go do it. And that's what they did. So my mom pulled money out of her 401k. And all of a sudden one day my uncle shows up with a truck to pick my dad up. And it was like, okay, I love y'all. I'll be back. We gonna go down here and make this money. We gonna do what we gotta do. And my dad got in that truck and he left. Now I was still going about my junior year of high school, like still attending events. At this point being a National Honor Society. You have a lot of like volunteer or like community service stuff. Like I think it was like points, so you had to go to like certain community service. So I'm still doing all of that stuff. Like you're still keeping your grades, you're still going all your responsibilities, you're doing what it is you need to do in school. And I would call and I would talk to my dad, you know, how's it going? Going good. Okay, love you, talk to you later, bye. And I'll never forget, I was at Six Flags. It was our student council trip to Six Flags. And I think we were like waiting to ride the Mr. Freeze or Batman, which are like right across from each other at Six Flags, or my, you know, schoolmates wanted to ride. And I was like, I really don't want to ride it. I don't know what happened, but my dad either ends up calling me or I call my dad and we just sit on the phone and we just like talk and he's letting me know. Just whatever it was we were talking about on the phone. Like I don't remember the conversation, but I remember like we spoke for a good amount of time. And I got off the phone with him not knowing that that would be the last time I would speak to my dad for 6 years. You know, I would call to Louisiana to speak to him. And at first I thought nothing of it because I'm like, oh, he's out working. And I don't even think my dad had a cell phone at this point. So I'm like calling, he's at my grandma's house. I'm like calling her house and I'm like, you know, I'm just calling to speak to my dad. Oh, he's not here. Okay, fine. Just like tell him to call me back later. And this just like kept going on to the point to where it was just getting like ridiculous. Cause I'm like, why is my dad like not calling me back? Like, this is crazy. Like, what's happening? So life still is pushing on. Like I had a friend at the time who was like, I'm gonna apply for a job at Six Flags Hurricane Harbor. It's a group kind of interview. Do you want to like come for the first round? And I'm like, sure, like whatever. I wasn't thinking about getting a job, but I was like, okay, sure, whatever, like I'll come. So I end up going and I end up getting the job. So then I have my first summer job working at Hurricane Harbor. And I'll never forget, my cousin called me at some point. She's like my cousin who is responsible for, I feel like she's like the designated bad news calling cousin. Like she is who, when there's bad news that needs to be shared with me, she is the person who has to call and tell me. And I remember she calls me one day, or she texts me, I don't know, but we end up on the phone and I'm like hiding in the bathroom at work and she's just like, I need to come pick you up from work. And I'm like, why, what's going on? And she's like, I'm gonna come get you from work. And I'm like, well, what's going on? Just like, tell me. And she's like, I just got news that like your daddy not coming back. You know, and I don't know where she heard this from, but you know, there's always gossip afloat. But at that time, I feel like I remember her telling me like, your dad might have another kid on the way. You know, she's like, he's not coming back. it's a done data. He's like not coming back. And she comes and gets me, and I'm like crying. I'm like, what is going on? Because my dad had been in my life, at this point I'm 16. He had been in my life all of my life and was my best friend, like literally my best friend. Like father-daughter dates, the shenanigans are gonna shenan, video games, karaoke, zoo, fishing. We were thick as thieves. So to hear, yo, dad's not coming, girl, I don't think you know what you're talking about. So we go back to my house and we're sitting at the dining room table, and she's like telling me all of this stuff that she heard, and I'm calling in. I can't remember at this point if people had stopped answering the phone for me, because I guess they got tired of like lying for him, or if they were still like, he's not here. But I remember I called a cousin of mine who was around my age, and I'm just like, cousin, like, where's my dad? Like, what's going on? And he was like, I was like, they're telling me like he's not like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on? Like, they're giving me the runaround. And he was like, call such and such. Like, he there. Like, I just left. He there. Like, so I call, and I don't know if they didn't answer the phone or if they answered and they gave me the runaround. And I'm like, what's happening? And that was it. I never got a call back. I never got an explanation for anything. You just go on with life. My mom's still checking in on family in New Orleans. I mean, the family from New Orleans that's living in Irving. And you just go on with life. Like, it was what it was. So I still worked my job at Hurricane Harbor. I still, went into my senior year applying for colleges. And once again, shout out to my high school, because they were taking us on college visits, which was like instrumental for me, because I wasn't in a position where like, my home went from a 2-parent, 2-income household to a 1-parent, 1-income household. My mom was just trying to figure out how to keep her head above the water for us. Now, how, college visit, what school y'all going to? Sign me up, I'm coming. They giving away a free waiver because I go to this school in Arlington. I'm applying for this school. Free and reduced lunch. We get vouchers for the SAT, ACT. You get so many vouchers for your college application. Yep, let me go talk to my counselor to get those. Like, you're just in hustle mode, having to figure things out. Like, it didn't stop. You don't have time to mourn the loss of your dad, to grieve the loss of that relationship. This is a very critical, crucial time, and you got to figure out what you got to figure out. So then I go through my senior year, and it's kind of shaky in the sense that I feel like I had become unreliable in the sense, because I remember I was supposed to go on like this yearbook trip, and I just went like, I needed to get back to my yearbook advisor by like a certain time, and I didn't. Like, I just dropped the ball on that, and I just remember not saying anything and getting to school, and of course rightfully so, she was upset with me, and I had to hold a conversation with her and like share with her what was going on. It was also interesting, the dynamic at school, because kids from New Orleans ended up at my high school, and wow, I didn't bat an eye at it. I just remember like mean things were said, or like they were being treated like they was from another country, and I'm like, New Orleans is part of the United States. Like, why are we doing all of this? Like, that's crazy. Y'all did make me mad with those Boost mobile phones, though. I will say that. I was just like, can we talk? Like, why are we having, baby, the walkie-talkie thing? I still don't understand. But anyways, so that was interesting. I don't even know where to go next with this. I graduated from high school, and you just go on. And I didn't talk to my dad again for 6 years. Didn't really talk to any of his family for 6 years. Yeah, I don't even know. And it's crazy because I didn't realize until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I was just like thinking about life, specifically my junior year, as it related to my dad leaving. And I don't know, something in my spirit just was like, excuse me, you should, like, what happened that year? So I like, I thought about it in its fullness, because I always looked at it like Hurricane Katrina happened and then my dad left. They, in my mind, were just two isolated events that happened, not realizing that they both happened. I just like didn't even put it together. I don't know, maybe like when you're like going through things, you just like find a way to like cope or like push it to the side or suppress it. But I never put together that those two things happened my junior year of high school until a few years ago. And I was like, that's wild. Like, that's just like an insane year to have. And then just, I don't know, like just really started just like thinking about life from that point on until where I was the 3 or 4 years ago. And I just was like, shout out to my mom for just like holding it together in the midst of all of that. Because when I tell you, she didn't skip a beat. Now that I'm older and like I understand life better, especially like money don't grow on trees, I can only imagine like what she must have been going through behind closed doors, because I had everything I needed. You know, prom was taken care of. When it got time to go away for college, you know, rented the car, loaded me up, we were good to go. And I just a tremendous amount of like just gratitude, you know what I'm saying? And just like gratefulness, because anything could have happened. I always say that, you know what I'm saying? Had I not had like a stronger mother, like depression is real, mental health is real, but she just like showed up, and in spite of everything that she was going through, and our household, just still showing up for family and pouring into family and making sure that they were good too. Eventually, and I don't know when, but there was a clearance of sorts for people to be able to go back to New Orleans. And even if your home wasn't good, like if your home ended up being damaged, they put trailers like on your property, and you could like live in these trailers until your property got fixed. So some of my family ended up doing that. They ended up going to live in the trailers until their home got fixed, or moved in apartments somewhere where like things hadn't been damaged. And I didn't go back to New Orleans again until 2009, I believe. I can't even remember. It might have been like 2004 could have been the last time I had been. But I went for 2009, and just like not the same place. Not the same place. So, anywho, I just wanted to share that. I wanted to share that just because, I don't know, I think stories were important. I think truth is also important. And I think also like selfishly, just like acknowledging something that I hadn't given myself, I feel like the opportunity to acknowledge for a very long time, as it related to just like Hurricane Katrina and my dad walking out during the same time. And yeah, I hope my story is helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments. I would love to hear from y'all. If y'all have something that you would like to share, please share them in the comments. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Love. Bye.